Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the garage. Every Thursday leading up to the Academy Awards, which of course is on March 15th this year, I will be giving you an updated Power Rankings video. However, this particular Power Rankings video for this week that I'm recording on February 17th is going to be a smidge different. I'll explain. Let's take a look real quick at the award season calendar, as I like to start out all of these with. We're at the 17th right now. Coming up in just about 5 days on the 22nd, we have the BAFTAs, the British Oscars essentially. A ton of crossover between that body and the Academy, so there could be some pretty heavy implications there. They don't always do very well on the crossover between the Best Picture winners, but I'm going to be talking about that on my BAFTA predictions video, which will be out on the channel officially tomorrow if you're not a channel member. And I talk a little bit about how I think that could be different this year in a year similar to like Oppenheimer, for example. So hang tight, and I might touch on that a little bit in this video as well. So the BAFTAs will have a huge influence. The Screen Actors Guild, or the newly named Actor Awards, will be on March 1st, the following weekend, which will be taking place or being broadcast while Oscar voting is open. And Oscar voting opens a few days after those BAFTAs air. So the BAFTAs and the SAG could be like big time momentum for some of these players, performances specifically, and really films too, if it goes another way than myself and a lot of people are thinking. We'll get there. You know, I've been doing the top of the line categories, and I've been keeping all the other bottom of the line categories and other things like international, animated, and stuff like that in the Award Expert app, which I still am there, and I still am updating those at least once a week. So please follow me over there at the Award Expert. By the way, shout out to Brother Bro and the team for coming up with that awesome app over there, and I'm also on Letterboxd. You can find me at both under the Awards Garage. On this video though, instead of the top of the line categories only, what I decided to do is to look at some categories that I feel like are up for grabs, that I am not fully locked in on my predictions yet. Like, I don't have a good feeling about the 1, 2, and sometimes 3 or 4 contenders in those particular categories. So I want to tell you where I sit right now when it comes to my prediction, which will be the movie or the name with a little Oscar symbol next to it, and then also what I think consensusly kind of like the power ranking is. So just to let everybody know in my introduction, because I always get a ton of comments, these are not my predictions. Now when I go through these slides, I will give you what my prediction is, but this is more like the power rankings of the current state of the race, if that makes sense. So like, if it was based on a performance scale and you were like being awarded based on how well you've been doing on the award circuit so far, you would be #1. And that's kind of what this is. But that doesn't necessarily always translate to who wins. You know, in the college basketball tournament, there's a #1 seed. There's 4 #1 seeds, right? They get to the Final Four, but it's not always a #1 seed that ends up winning their division or the tournament. If you don't like sports, I apologize for that analogy. Now, I am going to talk about the 2 supporting acting categories to get us started, which of course are top of the line, because I still think those are both up for grabs. Now, not a lot has changed in terms of my power rankings for those, because we don't have the BAFTA yet or the SAG, like I said. There's been some other European awards that have been handed out here and there that may have increased the strength if you're thinking of like that international vote for some players. But overall, I'm still kind of in the same mindset, but I want to show those to you because I definitely don't think those are locked in yet. And then we're also going to be looking at the International Feature Award, Cinematography, Casting, and Editing. Those 6 categories, and there's others too, but those 6 are really ones that I'm struggling with as to what's going to win there. I don't really know what the front runners in those 6 categories are, or in some cases there's 2 or 3 front runners that any one of them can win. So let's get into it. We'll start with the supporting categories. In looking at the supporting actress slide to get us started, this is the ranking, the strength ranking right now, the power ranking. Teyana Taylor, Amy Madigan, Wunmi Mosaku for Sinners, Inga Ibsdottir-Lilius, and Elle Fanning, both from Sentimental Value there at the end. I do think Teyana Taylor, February 17th, has been boring commentary for me on these slides, but I think they're up for grabs. Reason being is, first of all, we don't know the result of a lot of the precursors. Now, I think Wunmi Mosaku, spoiler alert for tomorrow's video for my BAFTA predictions, is going to win the BAFTA for supporting actress. That's what I predicted. Now, of course, I wouldn't be blown away, shocked, you know, in a state of disarray if Teyana Taylor won that, or even Inga from Sentimental Value, for example, with that body. But I'm just predicting Wunmi. I think Sinners is going to prevail in a few categories on BAFTA's night. It got a lot of nominations there, especially considering the type of films they usually nominate, or usually leave out, I should say, without getting into it. But it overperformed there, did well there. So I think Wunmi, being British and being that she has a previous history with the BAFTAs, she's a previous winner there for television. She's also been nominated for a genre film, for a horror film called His House, which was much lesser seen than Sinners. So I think that's her home turf. They're going to take care of her. Teyana Taylor's a bit of an unknown. I said that on my BAFTA video as well. So while she's great in One Battle, and while that film is probably going to be the strongest across the BAFTAs, I think Teyana might not come along with that, especially since they're going to want to spread the love around a little bit at the BAFTAs between these two behemoths of Sinners and One Battle. So I do think Wunmi is going to ride the success of the BAFTA win to the Oscar win. That's what I think right now. I have no problem, no pride situation in changing my prediction this time next week. If she doesn't win the BAFTA, I'm not going to be predicting this. Just so you guys know, right now that's my hunch. That's what I see playing out based on all the factors that are in front of me. But if Teyana wins that, she wins the Oscar. So I fully accept that. You know, Amy Madigan's not at the BAFTA, so that's going to hurt her overall, although I think she could stand a chance to win that actor award, the SAG award. So really, the top four here, I don't think Elle Fanning is a huge contender, although she could shock too. This category is a toss-up. I got Teyana number one in power ranking with Wunmi as my current projected winner. Supporting actor, I moved the runner-ups, if you will, the near misses, around a little bit. I bumped up Benicio del Toro and switched him with Sean Penn from last week's power ranking. They're basically tied. I just feel like the overall kind of like personality and reputation that Sean Penn has out there in the public eye, whether that's talking about, you know, news stories or controversial comments or, you know, the Academy's, you know, reluctance to support various groups, all the outspoken things he's come out against, even though the performance in One Battle was, you know, irrefutable, it just might hurt him at the end of the day, and they know that. I mean, they know that he's basically being a vocal against the whole system or whatever. And he has been out there a little bit more as of late, which I was pleased to see. But I think Benicio is a little bit stronger. I do think those dudes are going to split votes, and then you might have somebody like Jacob really into, or if Delroy continues his surge of being the feel-good surprise nomination, he could rise higher in the stakes too. So the reason I'm focusing on these two slides is because I want you guys to realize, and I assume you guys do if you follow the race, and a lot of people think they know what's going to happen. I think I know what's going to happen. I think Stellan Skarsgård is going to win, and he's number one in the power ranking right now, I would think. But I don't know that. I don't feel warm and cozy about that. So in looking at this slide and the previous one for supporting, I hope you guys can look at that slide and see what I see and realize, like, really anybody can win these. Like, if you look at this slide right here, you can make an argument for every single actor on this slide winning this Oscar. You really could. Now, that would depend on what happens, of course. You know, if Stellan wins the BAFTA, which I think he will, he's already got the Globe, so he has a really good shot, right? That's an easy argument. Benicio was very strong in the critics groups early in the season. What if he wins the SAG award? The same thing could be said for Sean Penn there. What if one of those guys win the SAG or the actor award? Jacob Elordi could also win the Screen Actors Guild award, although I think that's more of a far fetch. And Delroy Lindo's not in it either of the next couple of major precursors. But Delroy definitely has the narrative along with somebody like Stellan Skarsgård. They're kind of sharing that similar narrative in this race. But I think Delroy getting the nomination and how ecstatic myself and everybody was about that is probably the win for him. But that doesn't mean he can't win here. Like, if Sinners is a lot stronger than I currently think it will be in terms of wins, then Delroy could come along with that pretty easily. Now, that's a, you know, hypothetical, like, what if situation, but it is possible. There's a sliver of possibility there. Right now, I think Stellan Skarsgård is the winner. He's going to have the BAFTA, in my opinion, and he's also going to have the Globe. He's got the support around his career and that narrative. So even though he's not in at the actor awards, I don't think it really matters. I think he'll still be strong enough with the industry support to get the Oscar win. So international feature, this one is, I need you guys to hit me in the comments. This one's driving me crazy. People say they have a horse in the race or whatever. I love all these movies so much. All 5 of these films were like 4 out of 5 of the movies that you're looking at here. Oh, no, I'm sorry. 3 out of 5 of the movies that you're looking at here were in my top 10 of the year. There's ones that aren't even here from the international field that were also in my top 20. No Other Choice, Left-Handed Girl. You know, I mean, just a phenomenal year for film in the international space for sure. So I hope that this would be the year that 3 would break into the Best Picture, but of course that didn't happen for Panahi or anybody else that was hoping to get in there. But what did get in was The Secret Agent from Brazil, Rise Up, and Sentimental Value from Norway. Those 2 are your Best Picture nominees, so those 2 are easily 1 and 2 in terms of power rankings for the International Feature Award. It would be a really shocking thing if one of those 2 didn't win because they do have that Best Picture nomination. So it comes down to a 2-horse race, right? For me, I was saying for a long, long time, which is going to sound very logistical and sophisticated, right? and it's going to make sense. But then I'm going to tell you what I'm doing, and it's not going to make sense. And I really need help. I really do. I'm not even joking when I say hit me in the comments. Be nice, though. Please be nice. But I was saying for a long time that whichever one of these films, assuming it's one of the two of these, wins the BAFTA, that's what's going to win the Oscar, which is extremely logical. That should actually be what happens. I think Sentimental Value is a much more BAFTA-friendly film. It makes more sense to me that Sentimental Value would win the BAFTA. In that same vein, it makes more sense to me that The Secret Agent from Brazil would win the Oscar. So which logic do I go with? The fact that the Academy is more South American in their voting body, so Brazil is going to inherently have a little bit of a built-in heads up there? Or am I going to go on the logic with the Academy that Sentimental Value got 9 nominations, including multiple top-of-the-line categories, screenplay, director, 4 acting noms, right? Whereas The Secret Agent only got the 1 acting nom and Best Picture, International Feature, and Casting, which is a really big one as well. But that's also more so like for the acting, right? By that rationale, Sentimental Value would be stronger. So if I'm predicting Sentimental Value to win the BAFTA, and I'm literally admitting to you on this video as I'm talking to myself here that it's stronger with the Academy based on the number of nominations and the places where it got nominated, why wouldn't I pick Sentimental Value to win the Oscar? And the answer is I don't know, but I go on a hunch 99.9% of the time. And my hunch is that there is such a passion behind The Secret Agent. And Wagner Moura and Kleber Mendoza Filho, the director, and just that film and that project. And Brazil is a country. Right now, I got that little Oscar statue next to The Secret Agent. And if The Secret Agent were to win the BAFTA, which I didn't predict it to do there, but if it were to do that, then I think it's a definite. It's a definite. And a lot of people are going to say whatever wins, or I'm assuming a lot of people are going to say whatever wins the BAFTA for international is what I'm going to pick to win the Oscar. And absolutely, you should absolutely do that. I don't know why I'm not doing that. I really don't know why I'm not doing that. So if The Secret Agent wins BAFTA, I'm good, because that's what I'm predicting. But if the Sentimental Value goes for the BAFTA, which I think they will, then I don't know what I'm going to have to flip a coin here or do something. I don't know. And I also think, by the way, I'll just touch on this real quick. I also think Jafar Panahi, and It Was Just an Accident, is still in the conversation. I think that's still a possibility too. It did underperform. It underperformed, especially compared to the other two. It's not in Best Picture. So I think that's the one thing that hurts it. If it was in Best Picture, I would feel a lot better about saying it could upset or whatever, but it's missing that piece. It did get into screenplay, but I just, and then Surat and Voice of Henry Job are just happy to be there. 2 brilliant movies. I don't know what it's going to take to get me off The Secret Agent for international here. I just see that happening 2 years in a row for Brazil. So we'll see. Let me know what you think. All right, so now some of the technical categories that I feel like are up for grabs. Sinners, Train Dreams, One Battle After Another, Frankenstein, and Marty Supreme are your nominees for Best Cinematography this year. This was one that was kind of weird for me because I had Sinners as this being one of their wins forever for like the last 2 months. And then the last week, I'm not even joking, since the last time I did this, it's been kind of falling off a little bit and missing some stuff that I was kind of surprised by. I saw some various stories about some people in the cinematography space, the DP space, didn't like some of the shadows. My buddy Matt put up a story about that from folks he spoke to when he was out there for the Indie Spirit Awards. So I've heard some chatter, nothing concrete or in writing that I could use as a basis, but I've heard things, whisperings, if you will, kind of like what you hear when you hear anonymous ballots and that kind of talk, right? So nothing that you can really, substantiate or measure, but it is something that's out there and that's being discussed and by people that I trust and respect. I'm still picking it to win here, currently, but I am seeking guidance on these slides when I do these power rankings. I think also because it does have the most wins in the cinematography space across the circuit. But One Battle and Train Dreams are close too. Train Dreams has got the Indie Spirit Award. Obviously, all 5 of these films are nominated for Best Picture, so no one really has a leg up there. They're all kind of on even ground as far as that's concerned. Autumn Durald Arkapow is the cinematographer for this, and she would be the first female to win it. That would be huge, and I'm actually pulling for that. I also think she's a woman of color, if I'm not mistaken. So you would have 2 first-timers there in terms of historical win. That would be great. Even though I'm kind of pulling for that narrative, my favorite cinematography of the year is Train Dreams. And that's another Brazilian too, by the way, Adolfo Veloso. So I would love that too. And then One Battle you absolutely can't count out because it's, in my opinion, the front runner on Oscars night in terms of wins. So those top three, really Frankenstein too, technically. Those top three, though, you know, that statue could be next to any of them. Right now, I'm going to go Sinners just because that is the front runner still, even though it's kind of been slipping a little bit down the mountain the last like week to 10 days. But that's what I'm going to go with currently. I want to hear what you guys think about cinematography. I do think this is definitely a category that's up in the air, though, where I would not have said that just a couple weeks ago. And then I want to look at best casting real quick, too. I also have Sinners predicted to win there. You can see the order I have them listed there. I think it's a pretty tight race between those top, like, well, really all of them, but definitely the top four because, you know, Secret Agent was a surprise nomination in this category. Not for everybody, but I didn't see that coming. I had sentimental value in that spot. I love the Secret Agent nomination there. It's a very eclectic cast, Brazilian actors, non-actors, there's so many extras. It was like really true to the heritage of Brazil. I thought it was a great casting job and some finds there too, in addition to obviously the powerhouse performance from Wagner Moura. So I love the nomination. So I see Sinners winning this, but this is the reason I'm showing you these slides on this week's show or this week's power ranking is because I'm not comfortable with these. I don't really know. That's what I would predict right this second if the Oscars were tomorrow. But I'm open. The comment section is open, you know, because I think any of these really makes sense to me, to be honest. And One Battle would be more so like, you know, the Chase Infinity find was brilliant, probably my favorite among these, but she didn't even get in for lead actress, you know. And if you have the argument that One Battle is just so strong that it's going to win everything, then yeah, I get that too. But right now, I think it's Sinners. You know, I don't have Sinners winning Best Picture, but I do think it's going to get some really good awards on the evening, and this is one of them. But I would love to hear what you think. Right now, I've got Sinners as number one in the power rankings for casting, but also it's what I would predict currently. And then the last one I wanted to touch on this video is the editing Oscar. Now, in the last 3 years, the winner for Best Editing has gone on to win the Best Picture on that night. So that is a recent trend. But I think the trend's just going to continue. That's kind of what I'm basing it on. From a power ranking perspective, no movie has won more editing prizes consensusly, including the regional groups and everything, than One Battle After Another. That's what I'm going to go with, you know, currently. And also, I think it's going to tie to that stat, and it will be the 4th year in a row. Now, before those 3 years, what kind of messed me up a little bit, but this was post-COVID, which is kind of a different era, really, for the Academy with the international piece and everything else, definitely since 2020. But before that, it was like 10 years between editing and Best Picture matchups. Maybe more. I'm going off the top of my head, but it was not a streak. So that streak of the editor winner being the Best Picture winner is very recent, but I'm going to stick with it. I do think F1 is jumping up the ranks, though, pretty quickly. So it's in the running. If it gets sound and editing, it's not going to win Best Picture, but it is a Best Picture nominee, which immediately made it a bigger player for this category. Because if you're not in the Best Picture 10, you're not going to win Best Editing, or at least I'm not going to predict you to do that. So it is in Best Picture, so it could upset for editing. It could also upset for stuff that I'm not going on in this video, like visual effects and stuff like that. I don't think it will, but it could, because it has that Best Picture nomination. But again, the reason I'm going over these particular categories is because I don't feel good about any of them, so I'm open to see what you guys say about that. But right now, One Battle, Andy Jurgensen would be my winner for Best Editor this year. That will be it on this week's Power Rankings. Let me know what categories you guys might want to see next week. I was thinking about just going back to the top of the line categories because, of course, we'll have the BAFTA results. So I probably will do those, but I can add a couple more in that I didn't touch on in this video if you think they're up for grabs. These are the 6, though, that I'm like, nobody should say they know what's going to happen in these 6 categories that I went over today. Either that or I'm like way out of touch because I don't know. Now, I have a hunch. You guys saw what I'm predicting, but I mean, you know, that doesn't mean I feel great about it like I do in some of the other categories that are like sure things. Tomorrow, I will have my BAFTA results up on the channel. They're up now for members if you guys want to check it out. And when it comes to the BAFTAs, if you guys follow me or if you're interested in what I think about the winners, just so you guys know, I'm probably not going to do the BritBox thing this year because it cost me too much money last year and I had an issue with canceling the subscription for the free trial, and I have PTSD with all that. So with the time difference and it coming on E at nighttime, I think what I'm going to do is stay off social media, watch it on E, and then either Sunday night or Monday, I'll just record like a wrap-up video of like what I thought of the show and the winners and the implications for the Oscars, and that'll probably be out on like Monday of next week. That's probably what I'll do, which is what I did for the Indie Spirit Awards this past Sunday. I just watched the show, which is cool because I'll watch it with my kids and, you know, and then I just kind of recorded a video when they went to bed. So that's probably what I'll do for the BAFTAs. So you can expect my reaction to that. It won't be a live reaction, but it'll be a reaction to what ended up happening and winning. And I'll have that out for you no later than Monday. Don't forget to follow me over on Award Expert. And if you're into it, channel memberships are open. They're only a couple bucks a month. You can help me keep everything going out here. I've been sick. I had to buy a bunch of medicine this past weekend. It's expensive. Anything else you want to do to help me out? I really appreciate you guys. Happy awards season. I will see you out here very, very soon. Thanks for tuning in the garage.